So I showed up that Friday night at 6 o'clock because it was 6 to midnight with my 2 pictures. And I walked in and I always say it was like the heavens opened and the angels were singing. And I was like, oh my gosh, the wall of stickers. And from that point forward, I was done. I was hooked on it.
Welcome to Scrapbook Your Way, the show that explores the breadth of ways to be a memory keeper today. I'm your host, Jennifer Wilson, owner of Simple Scrapper and author of The New Rules of Scrapbooking. This is episode 178. In this episode, I'm interviewing Jennifer McMurtrey for the My Way series. My Way is all about celebrating the unique ways memory keepers get things done. We're excited to have Jennifer as the July featured artist at Simple Scrapper. Hey, Jennifer, welcome to Scrapbook Your Way.
Hi, Jennifer.
I'm excited to get to know you a little better in this My Way episode, but can you start by sharing a little bit about yourself?
Yes, thank you. My name is Jennifer McMurtrey. I live in central Washington State in a small town of almost 7,000 people. So pretty tiny. It's not where I grew up. It's about 30 miles away from where I grew up, which is significantly larger than where we live now. But I live here with my husband and our 3 dogs, Mabel, Mildred, and Luna, and our youngest daughter, who's actually getting ready to fly the nest in August.
Wow,
Yeah.
what an exciting time.
It's exciting and scary because
Yeah, I bet.
I've Google mapped it, and it's 923 miles from door to door from here to she's going to UNLV in Las Vegas.
Okay.
So she's not just going away a little bit away, she's going a lot away. Far.
Yes. Oh, that can be hard. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was only 3 hours away from my parents and
I know.
it was a struggle for both of us.
It is. I'm not ready for it, but I really don't have a choice. My 2
Mhm.
other children, Phoebe is 26 and Caleb is 22, and they're out of the house already. Excuse me, which I'm used to, but just having the whole empty nest coming up is really kind of freaking us out a little bit.
Yeah, I bet. Well, and I'll be curious through our conversation
Mhm,
today how that
mhm.
may be impacting your lens on scrapbooking. And obviously it's
Major.
changed a lot over the past few decades, but
Mhm.
now you're at maybe a pivot point.
I
So,
definitely am, and I was listening to your most recent episode and how you're hanging out with the cats now, and or it was your friend who was hanging out, I can't remember, but
no, that's me. It's me and the cats.
it's gonna be
Uh,
me and the
yeah.
dogs.
Yeah, and Emily's only 10, but she's off always doing
Mhm,
something with her friends or a
mhm.
camp or some sport or so it's just
Yeah,
yeah, it's definitely a shift.
it definitely is.
So
Most
in terms of your hobby right now,
Mhm.
what's exciting you?
You know, I have to say that I've been in a little bit of a creative rut recently. Um, and I think it's just due to life events. My dad has been sick, my mom has been having issues, and it just kind of like killed my mojo. But something that I just ordered and recently received is the new layered life kit that Christine Middlecamp is doing. I don't know if you've seen that on Instagram.
I
Um,
have, and I will make sure to link it up in the show notes because super cool.
It's amazing. I did receive it a few days ago, and I cannot wait to play with it. It's just gorgeous, and it reminds me of, say, old crepe paper colors, the golds and the turquoise and the pinks, and just
Mm.
very, very akin to what she was working with when she was with crepe paper. So I'm really excited to play with that.
Oh, so fun. Yes.
Mhm.
I love I don't know. I have lots of hope for our industry that we will always love to make art, play with pretty
Mhm.
things,
Mhm.
combine them with our words and photos. And
Yes.
I think our computers will continue to play an
Mhm.
important role,
Mhm.
but you can't get past the tactile experience.
No, and I'm totally in it for the tactile experience. That's my jam, and that's what I love the most about it. One of the things.
S- yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
So we also like to ask our guests about their memory keeping bucket lists. So in particular, do you have a particular story that stands out as one that you have not yet told, but it feels really important to do so?
Yeah, I do, and I've been thinking about this long before you had approached me about being on the show, which thank you for doing, by the way. Um, I it's gonna be a hard one, but I think it needs to be said, and my childhood is one of me surviving a lot of, trauma and abuse and overcoming that, and my
Mhm.
children are very aware of it, and when I say I wanna tell my story, I don't wanna go into all the nitty-gritty details, but just more of how I was feeling and how it impacted me as a child and how it played a major role in my teenage years and my young adulthood in terms of turning that trauma into just a whole mess of bad decisions, which took me quite a while to turn around and get out of. And it's not something that I really speak about very often, but it is a major part of my story, and I think it needs to be told. I think it's time. I think it's time.
Yeah, I think that's definitely I can imagine that being at this empty nest point
Hmm.
that you can feel like you've raised them to adults where they're more capable of handling more difficult stories.
Most certainly, and I teach high school, and so I'm able
Mhm.
to they call me the bad kid magnet at school because I'm always relating, and they're not bad kids, but relating to the kids who are struggling with their home life and maybe making some
Mhm.
bad decisions in terms of substance abuse and self-harm and just self-destructive behaviors, because that's my story. And so I do share it with my high schoolers at a certain point because I think it helps them relate to me much better, as well as let them see that, "Hey, I'm going through this right now like she did, but you know what? She turned out all right. She's doing okay."
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I love that. And
Mhm.
yeah, I think if it will be I hope it will be kind of additional catharsis for you as you
Yes.
release that on
Mhm.
top of, anyone who reads it who may benefit from it. So,
Yeah,
that's
and
seems really important.
I'm realizing that I'm still carrying a lot of that around, and the catharsis part
Mm.
of it will be huge because it does need to I need to get rid of it. I just need to get rid of it.
Yeah, that'll be so interesting.
Mhm.
So yeah, sending you lots of strength and courage as you
Thank
tackle that.
you. I appreciate it.
So this is a My Way episode because you're one of our featured artists.
Thank you.
I'd like to kind of start off by giving our listeners a teaser about what makes you tick. We are in our photos creative journey right now. So what
Mhm.
has been successful for you when it comes to finding, choosing, using, or sharing your favorite photos?
Well, let me just start with there was a time where I was the worst at taking pictures. So I had tried and tried and tried to get on design teams for quite a while, and I could never take good pictures of my projects. And so just becoming a better photographer in that sense has been a struggle and a journey for me, and one that I have a better grasp on now. But having our phones has made all the difference because I use Lightroom all the time on my phone, and then I've purchased some light and airy filters, which they just take my photos to the next level, whether it's projects or ones that I've taken of the kids or the family or the dogs or whatever it is. It I basically photograph, edit, and print from my phone all the time. That's what I use.
Having whatever process you use, just
Mhm.
knowing this is what I do and doing it consistently sometimes is like, 90% of the battle of handling your photos.
Most definitely. Now, I do some design team work now, and so when I'm adding the footers and things like that, I use Photoshop Elements on my laptop just because it makes it easier to just manipulate the photos a little bit further. But for the most part, all of
Mhm.
my photography is done with my phone and edited on the phone.
And do you find that particularly helpful in terms of like being out and about or just being able to work on it
Mhm.
not tied to the computer?
Definitely, because I can sit in my chair watching TV while I do it, or
Yeah.
if we're on a road trip somewhere, or if I'm in my prep period at work and don't have anything that pressing that needs to be done, I can sit there and play with my pictures while I'm at work as well. Don't tell anybody.
I'm always that person in the car with, like, a blanket over my head so that I could not have any glare on my phone and I can actually see
Oh,
the real exposure of the photo
okay,
so
you're a
that I
little bit
can
more
edit in the
extreme.
car.
A little more extreme than I am, but I think my husband would think I'd lost my mind if I started doing that.
Oh, I think mine learned that a long time ago,
Yeah,
so
I know, he has, but I think I'd be even more gone to him at that point.
So let's go back a little bit. And can you share how you started scrapbooking and maybe how your hobby has evolved in all that time?
Yeah. So back to kind of telling my story, I say I got kind of a late start in life, and so when I was 28, I started going back to school at the local community college, and it was a cohort program. So I was with this group of ladies for the entire 2 years that we were in that program together. And so one night they're like, "Hey, we're gonna go to a crop," and I was like, "I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about." And they said, "Well, bring a couple pictures and meet us at the local scrapbook store or this store." I had never even heard of it, and I was like, "All right, you crazy ladies." And so I showed up that Friday night at 6 o'clock because it was 6 to midnight with my 2 pictures, and I walked in and I I always say it was like the heavens opened and the angels were singing, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, the wall of stickers." It was, and from that point forward, I was done. I was hooked on it, and I mean, that was, let's see, probably 2001, and so I've pretty much been going strong with the scrapbooking since then. I've had some periods where I haven't scrapbooked as much just because I continued my education from there and have been, well, I'm done, but had been going to school off and on for about it took me like 18 years. So I always tell kids, don't be a Jennifer, don't take 18 years to finish your schooling, but, that was really what introduced me to it, and they were more into card making and the stamping than I ever got into. I'm not a huge card maker for some reason, it's like my kryptonite, and I just freeze, and I can't seem to come up with anything, but, um, I've lost touch with all of those ladies since then, but I do know that I am the one that stuck with the hobby since that night.
Mm. Your heavens parting, angel singing moment, it makes me think about how I bet you were a kid who also enjoyed crafty supplies and
Oh,
things,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
And maybe school supplies, that was, like, the best
Yes.
part of the year is going to get
Yes.
new school supplies.
Yes.
And there's something about scrapbooking that finally gave you a purpose because you'd, like,
Yes.
go to the store and be like, "Oh, I really want that, but what would I do with it?"
Exactly.
Now, we have something that we can do with all those things
Exactly.
that we've wanted to buy since we were kids.
I would get my coloring books and I would sit in my I just vividly remember sitting in my room with my Barbie coloring book. I can't believe I'm admitting this out loud. And I would start on page 1 and color from the beginning to the end, and her outfits would be the same color all the way through, and just it was crazy. But I always just the whole paper thing. And do you remember the Richard Scarry Busy,
Mhm.
I had those little cutout neighborhoods, and I'd have those set up on my floor, and just that whole tactile part of it. I've had that since I was a kid, and my mom has always sewn. She was a huge seamstress, and so she would take me on the craft show, circuit around our hometown, and I would sit at tables in the park with her while she would try to sell her pot holders, and she would take pot holders and sew them in half diagonally and put scissors in them, and just, total 70s and 80s type stuff. But
Mhm.
I just remember loving doing that with her, and all seeing all the things that people made always fascinated me.
And so I'm imagining that you're not scrapbooking in exactly the same way that you were when you started.
Oh, no, definitely not. Not even
So
close.
c so how did that evolve for you over time?
I well, I no longer cut my pictures into circles and put them in the sun, in the sky at the beach. That was one of my, first layouts, and I went and cut around us and placed us on the beach, so it looked like it was it's pretty funny looking back, but, um, I did to me, it almost seemed more cartoonish back then, using the die cut characters of the boys and the girls and the parents, and that was so popular back in the early 2000s, and
Sure.
it I just kinda came into my own in terms of what I'm comfortable with, what I know doesn't work for me. I love the messy, I love the paint on the backgrounds and splattering and tearing and cutting and just texture, lots and lots of texture.
Mm. And what sizes or formats are you creating in these days? Are you doing 12 by 12 layouts? Are you doing what's really kind of lighting your fire?
12 by 12 for sure has always been my go-to. I will sometimes do 8.5 by 11. And for I'm on the LA Studio team, and for LA Studio, it it's more of a pocket based, it's targeted more towards pocket scrapbooking, which is not something that I'm huge into, but I do have
Mhm.
some life crafted albums, and I will do one monthly spread in that because I have tried to commit to Project Life, and I cannot I cannot do it, like, at all. I tried it one time and ended up it was just too much because I wanted everything to be in there, all the details, and it just blew up in my face, and so, 12 by 12 for sure, some life crafted type layouts, and 8.5 by 11 once in a while.
Very cool.
Mhm.
I've been thinking a lot about this recently that I think some people are very project oriented and they like the confines of a specific project. They know what they
Mhm.
need to do.
Mhm.
And then I think others, which includes myself, see a whole layout as its own project. And
Yes,
like that's about as much as I can commit to at a time. And when
exactly.
I try to make something bigger, I definitely struggle to finish it
Mhm, mhm,
sometimes.
definitely. If I know that I'm starting with this one page, and when I get done with this one page, then I'm done and on to the next. I can't the I'm trying to work on some mini albums of some recent trips that my daughters and I have taken, and
Mhm.
they've been started, but I don't even know
Yeah.
where they are right now. They're somewhere tucked away. And one of these years I'll get back to finishing them, but I just can't sit down and work on a big project like that from beginning to end. It doesn't work for me.
Well, I think it's okay to know that about
Yeah.
yourself and to just pay attention and do more of what works
Mhm.
and a little bit less. It doesn't mean never, but maybe
Mhm.
just, pare back on what maybe doesn't work as well for you because you know it's going to take you longer.
Yeah, and
So,
take it out once in a while, work on it, and then put it away again when you're sick of it.
mhm.
And
Yep.
that's okay. I go to my crops with my girlfriends, and there will be some of them that are like, "I gotta do this, this, and this, and I can't work on this until this is done," and my brain doesn't operate that way at all.
For sure. So, in terms of products, you mentioned you're on the Ellie Studio
Mhm.
team. Are
Mhm.
there any other products that you're completely obsessed with? Who are you always checking out with on your online shopping cart and all
Yeah,
that?
I've been trying not to online shop too much, but, I was on the Simple Stories team for 2 years, and I absolutely love their products and have a ton of that, but one of my very, very favorites is Pink Fresh. I love the modern prints, and just, like, their it's kinda snarky, some of their collections have been, which really speak to me because that's my personality, and so I have
Mhm.
been able to do, I feel, a lot of fun things with their products. That's one that I go back to time and again.
Fun. We'll definitely link them up. They have some really pretty color palettes, and I
Mhm,
love kind of petite patterns, which they're good
mhm,
at as
yeah.
well.
Yeah, they have some great products.
So, what is something you use or do on most of your pages? Like, if we look through your album, what would we notice?
A white cardstock background, most definitely. I love pattern paper, but I can't make a layout on pattern paper. For me, it just I don't know what the deal is, but for some reason it just doesn't feel right. So a lot of my layouts, you'll see white cardstock and ink of some sort on there. I didn't used to be into stamping, but being on the LA Studio team, I've really worked on trying to hone my stamping skills. I've been with LA Studio for this is my 4th year with them. So her stamp and die game lately has just been spot on, and she's really coming out with some fun products. And the die cuts and the stamping have been you'll see a lot of that on my projects for sure.
Yeah, one of the challenges these days is there's so many amazing stamp
Mhm.
sets coming out,
Yes,
and it's really hard to
I
rein
know.
yourself in
I
to not get
know.
them all.
I know, and I'm so fortunate to be on that team because Ellie is so, so
Mhm.
generous with what she sends each of us, and, So I have more stamps than I will ever be able to use in my entire life after being on the
Yeah.
team for 4 years. But again, I'm so grateful for it because it's not something that I think I would have tapped into normally. And with her team, I'm one of the people who, instead of making the pocket pages like some of the ladies do, I'm the one that's making the 12 by 12 layouts and showing how, oh,
Mhm.
you can still get this kit of 3 by 4 cards and 4 by 6 cards and die cuts, and you can cut them up and you can turn them into a big a layout. It doesn't have to fit into this one specific type of project.
Yeah, I know I'm definitely always checking out your pages because 'cause I'm more of a layout person than
Hmm.
pockets
Hmm.
myself, so
Yeah, the pockets, they're kind of like cards. They just, for some reason, they I look at them and my brain just goes I go my mind goes blank. I can't. I've tried to work past this. Maybe I need therapy for that. I don't know, but I can't seem to get past that.
I don't know what it is, like, I will definitely do it once in a while,
Mhm.
but even with something like excuse me, with, like, December Daily, I
Mhm.
realized I'm not finishing these because I'm trying to do all pockets. As soon as I
Mhm.
switched to doing mostly small layouts,
Mhm.
it was fine, it was no
Yes.
big deal.
Yes. This was my first year ever finishing a December daily, and it was just a really great feeling, but like you, I have some things in pockets, but for the most part, I was printing, and I did it in a life crafted album, so I was printing
Mhm.
large photos and, uh putting embellishments on those photos, and just, as soon as I kind of got into the groove and got rid of this idea of what I think it should look like and just went for it in, I mean, my way, right? Scrapbooking my way.
Yes. Yes.
That's when I really started to get those pages done and just have fun with the project instead of stressing out about it.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear.
Mhm. Mhm.
Before we get too far on, I wanna touch back on the stamps a little bit just
Okay.
because when you have a lot of stamps, you have to figure out how you're gonna manage those. So how
Mhm.
do you organize your stamps?
Oh, dear goodness. Um,
If you do, and it's totally okay if you don't, if they're in piles somewhere,
So
so
they are somewhat organized. I keep all of my LA Studio products in a Rascog cart for the most part. I have all of my stamps together, and being on the LA's team, we are using current products. So before I
Mhm.
grab any stamp out of the pile, I have to go back on and make sure that they're in stock because we don't want to show products that are no longer available. So they're in a clear bin, but then I've also last summer, I bought some 8.5 by 11 magnetic sheets and put them into page protectors. And I have the dies out of the
Mhm.
package and on these magnetic sheets with the stamps included in the page protectors with them. And so I have a binder of Pink Fresh and Altenew, and then I have a binder that has all of my LA Studio dies and stamps that go coordinating stamps. And they're in binders on the countertop in my craft room. So my husband is very, very supportive of my hobby because my hobby is way less expensive than his. We'll just put that out there. And so last year, he put kitchen cabinets along one wall of my craft room for me. So I've taken over one of the bedrooms in the house, and I have a giant kitchen island in the middle of the room that is where I craft. And so I have to have everything out, eh, or I forget I have it basically. So I have everything, all of my dies are somewhat organized by category and in bins um, on my countertop so I can see them.
Well, what a good hobby you have, that sounds amazing.
Yes.
I love how we've, grown to turn to the kitchen supplies
Hmm.
to make
Right?
our craft rooms more functional because that's
Yes.
where you stand up and you do things, right?
Uh huh.
So
Most
it's
definitely.
definitely pretty handy.
I mean, I have thickers in a vintage dish strainer, and it's so cute. And then I have
That's
pins.
a wonderful idea.
I
Wow,
have
I've never heard of that.
Right, I
Yeah.
found this old, dishwasher silverware holder at we go to estate sales and yard sales all the time, and it
Mhm.
fit perfectly on these hooks that I have on the side of my Rascog, so it's functional, but it's cute at the same time.
I love that, I love that. Are there any other kind of organizing tips or solutions that really stand out to you as something you'd like to share?
My inks, I have a lot of ink, and so in my drawers, I had the Tim Holtz metal containers for all of my distress oxides, and it became
Mhm.
so cumbersome going and getting that tin and pulling it out, pulling the ink out, and so I took the plastic, I don't know what you wanna call it, the trays that are inside those metal bins, and they fit in my drawer perfectly, so I didn't have to cut them or do anything to them. I just simply took them out of the metal tins, and now they all fit into one drawer, and so I can open my drawer and see them all, and then if I'm going to a crop, I just grab the tray, throw it back into the metal tin, and off we go.
Nice. That
Yeah,
sounds super handy. I love
yes.
it.
Yeah, that's one of my best hacks.
It sounds awesome. And if you have any if you have any pictures of these specific items on your Instagram, if you could point them out to me, I would love to include those links for our
Yeah.
listeners.
I don't know if I have one of that specifically, but I do have a picture of when my craft room I say when, my craft room was clean. It's a hot mess
Mhm.
express in here right now.
Yeah.
I'm off for the summer as of Monday at noon, so one of my projects this summer is gonna be to, go through everything and purge stuff that I'm not using, and my girlfriends have a giant paper crafting garage sale over in Snohomish, so I'll be heading over there in July to try to get rid of some of my stuff and maybe make some money back, but uh, make room for more new stuff.
So, can we talk a little bit more about your process? When do you typically find the time and energy for scrapbooking? And is it consistent for you or does it wax and wane?
It kinda waxes and wanes. I can't stay up late anymore. I used to be a major night owl, but that doesn't the older I get, that doesn't work for me
Mhm.
anymore. I'm very fortunate with my work schedule since I teach, I'm generally home by about 3:15 or 3:30 every day, so I will come home and have a little bit of quiet time and decompress from my day, and then, I have time I have a couple of hours that I scrapbook before my husband gets home from work or even in the evenings, but I do generally scrapbook on sounds weird, on Sunday. Sunday's my scrapbook day. I don't know why, but that just seems to be the day that I work on laundry and work on projects.
That sounds awesome. I would
Mhm.
love a nice quiet Sunday.
I know. Our house is getting too quiet though with
Yes.
yeah, it's like I stated earlier, this new chapter in our lives is exciting. I'm excited for my kiddo and her making her dreams come true, but at the same time it's like, holy moly, it's just the two of us now. What are we going to talk about?
Mhm. Well, it'll be interesting to see how things shift in the
Mhm.
next couple years
Mhm.
and how you choose to spend more time together and more time maybe,
Mhm.
in your own spaces doing your own things.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, there's opportunities there and of course it's always an adjustment as well.
Yeah,
So,
and we've been working hard at doing that, and, I spoke of my husband's hobby earlier. He, restores vintage arcades, so,
mhm.
we have I say our family room is Chuck E. Cheese. I think we have 9 arcades in the family room. That's his hangout, his little man cave back there, and a bunch of them out in the shop that are in progress, so he has his thing, and I have mine, and we're both very supportive of one another because it I think that when we each get to do the things that we love doing, it makes us better together.
Yes, I love that. I love that. So do you have any strategies that you use maybe because you said you're maybe more in a funk right now,
Mhm.
strategies that you use to kind of get back in the groove?
I think just coming in here into my craft room, sitting down, like right now I have a box from Ellie that I need to start working on, so when I'm in a funk, I can just come in here and say I'll unbox all that and get it organized. I have those scrapbook.com little cardboard organizers that I keep the current kits in so that I have that right in front of me. But a lot of times just coming into the craft room and tidying up a little bit, going through the new product to see what I have and start kind of getting an idea of what I want to work on. I'm always on Instagram, always. That's one of my go-tos for inspiration when I am in a funk. And then I do have a bunch of sketches that I have saved that I will if I absolutely cannot come up with anything at all, I will start with a sketch and go from there.
Yes. You know what? I love sketches too. And it's so funny because for so long I was like, we actually create sketches as part of what we do at Simple
Mhm,
Scrapper. In
mhm.
fact, we have a new collection based on your layouts.
Ah,
And so I always felt like I had to do more original things. But now I'm like, no, I like sketches. It's so fun to just have someone tell you, here's where you place the things, pick out the
exactly.
products that you like, tell the story that you want,
Mhm.
and put it together like, a puzzle.
And, sometimes because I am on design teams, I worry about, well, oh, they're just gonna look at that and know that Jennifer made that because it looks like everything else. So I you know what I mean? You know how you can see
Mhm.
something like Missy Whidden, who is amazing. I can look at hers with all the mixed media and I'm like, "Oh, she made that awesome layout," right? Uh,
Mhm.
but the sketches help, and if I can't find a sketch that's really jiving with me, I'll go back and look through layouts that I've done. I'll go through my own Instagram feed, and if there's a layout that I really was proud of and I really liked, then hey, let's make something like that again using the current product, and maybe I'll change this up, or I'll change that, or I'll add this or take this away. So
Yes.
scrap lift yourself for sure. If you have
Mhm.
something that you really like, then make it again. And I'm becoming more comfortable in uh, my own creativity and not trying to be. I think you kind of have like an imposter syndrome where it's like, I'm not as good as these other people. And gosh, why
Mhm.
am I on this team? How come they have me here? Because I'm not Missy Whidden and I'm not Ellie Edwards and I'm not all these amazing people. But I think that becoming comfortable in what you're making and taking ownership of the great things that you're creating is huge. And I think that's been a big part of the process for me is just kind of
Mhm.
owning owning who I am as a creative and just being proud of what I'm putting out there.
Oh, that's so well said, and I think it's so important, to that we not get caught up in all that comparison that makes
Mhm.
us feel lesser than, and we
Right.
are we are awesome, just on our own with whatever we're creating. So
Absolutely, absolutely. We all have our strengths and weaknesses and
mhm.
just work off of those strengths, and if there are things that you don't do as well, then practice and get better.
So I'm curious, speaking of weaknesses, is there something in scrapbooking, whether it's a supply, a technique, a size, or a format that you've decided is absolutely not for you?
Okay, I have a list. First of all, hand stitching on layouts. Ugh. It looks amazing, but I can't do it. I don't wanna sit there for 3 days stitching on a layout. I'll machine stitch all day long, but
Yeah.
hand stitching, no thank you. I've done it a few times, and by the time I got done, I was like, "I'm never doing this again," even though it's amazing. Project Life, no can do. It because I want every single detail of every single day, and I just can't seem to pare it down into something manageable. And then the last one that I was thinking about would be all of these adorably cute mini albums that people are making. So I go through the Simple Stories feed and look at what the new members of the design team are making, and
Mhm.
these cute little mini albums that look like a house or they fit into this cool little thing that you made that they sit in. It's like I cannot do that either. I can't do that. How do they think of that stuff?
Yeah, I know, but I feel like it's kind of all come back. Like,
Mhm.
we used to do more of those types of
Yep.
projects, and now what is old is new again, but now it's even to the, times 10
Right?
in terms of, like, interactivity and embellishment and how epically awesome can we make
Right?
this really tiny project.
And there's a lady that creates for Ali Edwards therapy, or I I don't know how to say um her username, but she makes some of the most amazing layouts, and she doesn't use a whole lot of equipment. You'll see her cutting with a blade and a straight
Mhm.
edge, and the things that she comes up with blows my mind. Like I'm just sitting there sometimes. How does your brain even do this? How do you come up with this stuff? It's just she's amazing. lots of amazing creatives out there.
I will definitely include a link to Jenny's Instagram
Hmm.
in the show notes for this episode because everyone has to check it out. She does great reels of all
Yes.
these,
Yes.
sped up of her process, and it just kind
Right?
of blows my mind
It
sometimes.
it totally blows my mind.
So, okay, kind of thinking more big picture here. This has
Hmm.
been an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
Where would you like your scrapbooking to be in 10 years?
Well, I'm just going to put this out there in case any of my children ever listen to this. I hope I'm scrapbooking grandchildren someday. That's my goal. Um, you know, I've never been one of those scrapbookers that's like, I have to have a baby album done. I have to have this album done for this person. When I do my big craft room rehaul this summer, one of my goals is to get all of the old pictures that I have from my grandmother's house and just things that my mom has given me over the years. I'd like to get those organized and start scrapbooking those. Um, I just want to I just hope that I never lose my passion for it. So I hope that 10 years from now I'm still I'm still working at it just as I am now. Maybe not on design
Mm,
teams at that point. I don't know. The design teams keep me going because I have deadlines, and so that helps me stay accountable to keeping up with my craft and getting those stories out there. And when you look at my scrapbooking, you'll notice that I don't always include a lot of journaling on my layouts, but what you're not seeing on the front is most often on the back. So I have trained my children, that sounds awful. I've trained my children that someday when I'm gone, if you're looking through these, look on the backs of the pages because I will often include handwritten journaling on the backs of the pages that I don't necessarily want everyone in the world having being privy to seeing. So I just want.
no, I like that solution.
Mhm,
It's a way to maybe balance a lot of different
mhm.
factors.
Yes.
Sometimes the privacy, sometimes just the aesthetics of the layout.
Mhm,
Um, yeah, I think it's a handy thing to do, and I've definitely done that a few times, especially if I had something a lot longer that I wanted to include
mhm.
that would not fit on my layout.
Yeah, and it's always been about the creative outlet for me more so
Hmm.
than always telling the actual story, and I guess, that would be another goal of mine is to get better about putting the story to paper along with the photos. But like I said, I do that most often on the backs of the layouts, and my kids know that when they look through my albums someday that to pull them out of the sheet protectors because is more than likely going to be something on the back.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Mhm.
So, if you look back over your experience as a scrapbooker and memory keeper, what has it taught you?
That my story matters, your story matters, everybody's story matters, no matter where you come from, no matter what you're doing in your life, what you've accomplished, what you haven't accomplished, it all matters. Um, after my grandmother passed away, we found all of these handwritten journals that she had done over the years that we had no idea. And having being able to sit down and read those, I had such a better idea of who she was as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, as just every aspect of her life aside from being my grandmother. And I would I take that, and that's something that I hope that I am able to pass on to my kids. It's just I think that we all have to get to that point where we realize that every single one of us matters and we all have something to contribute to the world, no matter how big or small that thing might be.
Mm. What a lovely and beautiful thought to end on. Jennifer, this has been so fun. Can you share where we can find you online and anything you might have new or coming up later this year?
Absolutely. So I post on Instagram more than anything, and that is at JenMc72. So it's JenMC72. That's where I post all of my projects. In the upcoming year, I think I'm going to try to get back out there and maybe I took a break from some design teams this year just because I needed to get my daughter graduated and deal with some things going on with my parents. But I'm hoping to start reapplying for some more teams here in the next year because I won't have any children at home. So Just that's kind of my scrappy goal moving forward, is just to get back out there and get back on some of those teams.
That sounds awesome, and you
Yeah,
already mentioned that how much that helps you with accountability,
most
and so we should
definitely.
all do things that support us in
Mhm.
continuing to move forward and accomplish what we want inside of our hobby.
Yes, most definitely.
Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for chatting with me.
Thank you for having me. It's been amazing.
And to all of our listeners, please remember that you have permission to scrapbook your way. All right, friends, we are halfway through the year, and that's the perfect excuse to start fresh. No matter where you're at with your scrapbooking, you can take stock, make a new plan, and then proceed. And if you'd like some help creating that plan for the second half of the year, you're invited to download the free workbook at simplescrapper.com/focus.